There are 100 million new clips posted to the internet every single day. And of course, because content is king, right? Well, if content is king, then how come more than 95% of those clips end up with less than 1,000 views? Those are peasant numbers. When it comes to clips, especially in the podcast space, it can be tough to break through the noise. There's a lot going on. It's tough to stand out. I get it. So today, we're going to analyze some reasons why clips don't work, and then we'll walk through the exact recipe for the perfect podcast clip to stop the scroll, to build your brand, and to grow your show. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. We're happy you enjoyed what you saw last time and you decided to return. If you're new here, welcome home. This is your one-stop shop for all things podcasting and creative, and we're happy to have you. So hit that subscribe button, like the video if you do like the video, and drop a comment, make some new friends as you join this growing creative community. I have EASTON in the back with me. How you doing, bro?
Not too bad.
I'm excited to dive in today. This is one that you and I have talked about doing, and I think it's going to provide, as the marketing influencers would say, it'll provide a lot of value for our viewers. And although I hate when that's said, it will. It definitely will. This is something that seems very fundamental. Clips, I think everybody has a firm understanding of what they are nowadays. You see them all over your feed everywhere you go. It's impossible to avoid them, but it's tough to figure out how to create a good clip. Everybody can point out a good clip, but it's tough to create one. So I want to walk through exactly why clips fail, and then I want to walk through the recipe for how to make clips that won't. So why do clips fail? Well, the first reason is they'll start mid-sentence. I see this all the time. It's obnoxious. It's jarring as a viewer when you see it. And this is also where AI clippers fall flat on their faces. If you go on stuff like Opus Clips, which is probably the most popular one out there, you go throw your footage into Opus, you say, create all these clips for me. It gives you a bunch of stuff. What it's not doing is understanding context of the clip within the episode. And it doesn't understand that when I pull that clip out of there, it is lost upon your viewers who see the end product on a feed. So it might give you a virality score of 94. It doesn't mean shit. It's a made-up number. And at the end of the day, it's really going off of buzzwords. It is saying like, oh, at this point they talked about insert hot topic here that's probably big in the news at the time. And then they give you that clip and you think you're good to go, and then you go throw that out there and it gets 300 views. Happens all the time. It happens to most clips, like we talked about. So I think starting mid-sentence is terrible. And on that note, most clips that fail don't have a hook. You need something immediately as soon as you press play that hooks your viewer in. If it starts mid-sentence, it's like, oh, holy shit, what's going on here? What are we even talking about? It's like walking into a conversation and then being like, I'm sorry, so what are we talking? Can you guys catch me up real quick? You don't have opportunity to do that with somebody watching your clip. So reasons 1 and 2 of why clips fail. Reason 3, self-referential context, meaning you're watching the clip and then they say like, oh yeah, I mean like you were saying earlier, I do agree with you. You have no idea what I'm talking about because you only have like a 40 to 60 second snippet of the conversation that we were having. So anything that is like referencing something earlier that was discussed or touched on or called out without providing additional info to give context to what that is, that's going to sink your clip because immediately you're putting your viewer on the outside. And then the next reason why clips fail is an unclear message. This happens more often than you'd think. I think a lot of times people will get done watching a clip and go, what was that? What was the point of that clip? What was I supposed to get out of that? And I think that happens when you don't come into a clip, and we'll talk about our strategy that we use here at Legos Creative later. I think people sometimes come into clipping and they don't understand even what they're trying to accomplish with a piece of content. And so you end up clipping something that you didn't even know what it was supposed to do. So your audience is definitely not going to know what it was supposed to do. So make sure you have a clear message behind the clip. So at minimum, even if you don't have a hook and all that type of stuff, if they can get past that, at least they'll get like the point of it at the end of the day. And then the last one that I think sinks clips, and really more so sinks brands than it sinks clips, is you share your clips before the episode goes out. The whole point of putting clips out is they are taste tests to drive traffic back to the full episode. Yes, we want to make sure that we're getting shares and engagement and everything on social media platforms when we post those clips. But the end goal with that content in the short form is to drive traffic to the long form. And if you put out an awesome short form clip and then I, as the viewer, see it and go, I love that, I want more of that, where's the full conversation? And then your episode's not out, I'm probably not going to check back in for you when the episode does come out. And if I'm not a follower, you just lost me. I'm out. So we encourage people, don't go dropping all your clips until your episode is out. Did I tie all those reasons up nicely? Nothing else there?
So.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool. Let's keep it moving. Let's get into then, now that we know some main reasons why clips don't work, let's get into the perfect clip recipe. Number one, we touched on it. You're going to hear us touch on it. We're going to keep on touching all up on it. Start with a scroll stopping hook. We said earlier there are over, 100 million clips a day being posted? A day. That means there's just under 1 billion in a week. 1 billion. That's a lot to sift through. And when somebody's scrolling a feed, you have, typically what people teach is like you have 0 to 3 seconds to stop the scroll. I think you have less than 1. Truly. And here's how you can test if that is true. Go scroll your phone like you typically do and notice how much time you actually give somebody to prove to you that their clip is worth watching. It's less than a second. It's this. This is the cadence. Scroll. Nope. I don't know that one. I don't know. No, I'm not interested. I'm interested. No, not really. That's how quickly people scroll. Watch anybody do it next time you're in public. You see people on their phones. Watch how quickly they move. I think it's less than a second. 3 is insanely generous in my opinion. 3 seconds is this. 1, 2, 3. Scroll. No way, bro.
Yeah, you're not getting that.
No way. So 1 second.
I think it's first glance too.
I agree with you. Yeah. It is first glance. It's for sure. And that goes into even just like what your production needs to look like. Like it should be bright. There should be colors. It should be like very vibrant and jump off the feed at somebody. But I think your clip should be in the first 1 second. And I'm sorry, your hook should be in the first 1 second. And what is a hook? A hook can be a bold claim. It can be a question. It can be an unexpected or attention-grabbing moment. Your hook is something that when someone sees it, they don't swipe that finger like we've seen people do and like we do every second on our feed. It should grab their attention. They should be immediately locked in on what you have. And you should take this insanely seriously. And as I was writing this up to do this episode, I was thinking about how much there is a parallel between a YouTube thumbnail and title versus your hook, and actually the entire like recipe that we're building out here for a clip on a social media feed. On YouTube, if somebody sees your thumbnail and your title and they like it, they will click on that and they'll watch it. On your feed, think of your hook as your thumbnail and title. It's the same thing. When they see it initially, that's what gets them in. It's the only shot you have. You have no chance to build it up. There's no fluff. Don't try to get cinematic with this. This is like, put it in front of them and get them on the line ASAP. That's your hook. Now, in podcasting, hooks can be difficult. And I want to make sure, since we are a podcasting show, we touch on this before we move forward. In podcasting, getting a hook is tough because you don't necessarily have things scripted out. So, for instance, in here, we'll generate organic content like this that is unscripted, and we're just kind of talking through some stuff. We have a rough outline, obviously, but like I'm not reading words, minus what you saw in the intro. We'll do other clips, though, where I will sit down with a script and I'll do things directly to camera, and then we know that that is going to be clipped basically as is one take. In that, I have full control of my hook. I can write it. I can write it again. I can write it again. I can figure out exactly the wording that I want, and then I can have multiple takes if I need them to deliver them to camera to deliver the most impact as possible and be as hooky as we can get. In podcasting, you're often at the mercy of the free-flowing conversation that's happening on the set, and that can make hooking really hard. So you have to start learning how to look for them, and this comes with a lot of experience. EASTON has, I'm thinking about how many clips you have under your belt now, you think? I mean, it's tens of thousands.
Yeah, it's got to be tens.
It has to be tens of thousands of clips. So EASTON has tens of thousands of clips under his belt. He's gotten very good at, while he's watching an episode, whether he's reviewing it or he's watching along in studio as we're producing it, he'll see something and go, mental note, that would be a good hook for this topic. So if we're in here talking about podcasting and stuff, and then all of a sudden I say something like, people just don't understand that about podcasting. Great hook, mental note. We could use that. Seeing those things gets easier as you go with experience. It can be very difficult at first, though. There's often times as well where there just isn't a good hook on the subject that you're trying to clip, and it's hard. And that can definitely be detrimental to the performance of a clip, but it's also kind of like you're at the mercy of the content. So do the best you can with what you have. If you do have the ability to control something that will give you better hooks, do that for sure, because it's so crucial. Your hook, in addition to grabbing attention, it sets the stage and the tone for the rest of the clip. What I mean by that is, if I come out of the gates with something like, people just don't get that about podcasting, it's pretty aggressive. I'm coming in hot. I'm going to probably say something that is like controversial or against the status quo, or it's a secret. Those set the tone and the vibe for what is probably coming next. And what is coming next is our second phase of this, well, I guess we're on a recipe analogy is what we're doing. It's our second ingredient, and I'm going to refer to it as a phase because they're kind of phases of clips. It's your second ingredient here on your perfect podcast clip. I look at this phase as the lock it in phase. You have about the next, after that 1 second to 3 seconds, you have probably from like 3 to 10 seconds, more like 3 to 6, 3 to 7 seconds if we're being really, really strict. But this is where you pull people in after the hook. They stayed through the hook. Now prove to them that they were right for staying. And this is where you're able to say, okay, you stayed. Now let me lock you in for the next 30 seconds. This is where you prove to people they made the right decision. And I'm going to go back to the YouTube analogy. When people when people scroll YouTube, they see the thumbnail, they see the title, that's basically your hook. They click on it, they go into the video. In the very beginning of the video, in that first 10 seconds, probably 5, you need to give them proof of, hey, you're going to get exactly what you're looking for. That's why you're here. Here it is. Bang. I'm answering whatever made you click. And so on the clip side of things, this is typically answering a subconscious question that the viewer is asking themselves based on the hook. So they're going to ask themselves things like, and again, subconsciously, this is just what curiosity manifests as in our heads as we scroll. What is that? What do they mean by that? How can that be? What are they doing? What is the secret? Etc. All of those things are subconscious questions that we ask ourselves when we scroll to a hook and we see it, we ask that question, and then we stick around to see the lock it in phase right here. So this is, if the hook makes them curious, this phase keeps them on the line. Thoughts on that, EASTON? Anything?
Yep, I agree. Going back a little bit to the you don't have control, like you're at the mercy of a free-flowing conversation. I do think there is a way to try to not script out hooks, but if you have a list of questions, trying to ask them in a way that you know in the back of your head, like, this will make a good intro for the clip.
Nice.
Like, so try to make your questions like more concise, more shorter, and that way it's easier on the back end, especially if you're doing it by yourself.
Nice. That's good. Yeah, because and then some of those, I mean, some hooks are, and I'm sorry I spoke for you on that and didn't check in with you on it. Some hooks can be the question.
Yeah.
You know, like what was the darkest moment of your life? That's a good hook. Cool. I'm in. I'm going to stick around. I don't even know who the person's talking to yet, but I'm going to stick around and hear what they say. So yeah, I like that. And then also, like you're saying, you could even ask questions in a way that kind of like alley-oops them to be able to then whatever they say next is going to probably be a good hook based on how you asked it.
Yep.
That's good. Really good. Okay, so we've hooked. We've locked them in. Now we're going to deliver the message. This is the meat of the clip, and this is probably ranging from like, we're going to do this whole thing on like a 60-second timeline. Know that that's a sliding scale. 10 to like 35 seconds. 10 to 45 seconds maybe. This is going to be the meat. This is where you get into it. You've done the hard work by gaming the algorithm and making your viewers stick around. Now give them what they came for. So you showed them, like, I'm trying to think of a good example of, like, let's go back to the one I was using with the podcasting. So I said, this is something that people just don't understand about podcasting. That's the hook. Here's the lock it in. Lock it in would be something like, when people are cutting clips, they're just not paying attention to what actually matters in the content. Okay, I've reinforced your decision to stay. This is now where I'm going to build out that statement that I just said. I'm going to offer all the context. This makes them, this again reaffirms their decision to stay. It's giving them the info that they stayed for. And this is the phase of the clip that becomes the reason why clips get shared. They don't share it because there was a great hook. They don't share it because there was a great hook and then I gave them that lock it in phase and they went, oh yeah, he's probably going to give me what I decided to stay for. They do it because of this info right here. Scroll up real quick, Easton. Yeah, this is the main value of the clip. It's also easier at this point because now we're just focused on, like, getting the messaging across in a way that's efficient and effective. We don't have to really worry about being as jumpy and as quick, as fast paced. Although I will say on that, we don't want to lose momentum. And I think that's something that you learn over time when you're clipping as well. You learn how to feel the momentum of a clip, and it should be either consistent throughout or a gradual ramp up so that we're building towards something. I also like a consistent throughout clip, though, in terms of momentum. I think it's, for me, that's my favorite. The ramp up thing can be good for certain types of clips. It's obviously great for, like, trailers, anything that is like a teaser, anything that you're trying to cliffhang. That's good for, like, a ramping up momentum. But for the most part, I like a consistent momentum throughout. It lets me really settle in quickly and realize, like, oh, this is the momentum. I feel good about this. I'm just going to coast through this whole thing. And that makes me feel like I'm going to ride it all the way to the end, basically. After you've given them that message, this is where you end with either a punch or a payoff of some sort. This is like just your ending of the clip. A mic drop line, a funny tag, a pause-worthy truth. Anything that is like a that tied up nicely. If you can give them some sort of, like, conclusion, you open yourself up to a lot more possibilities that go past just that one piece of content. Because again, the message that came before this, in the phase before this, that's what's going to be the reason for sharing. But now we want them to do something for us. We either are going to want our viewer to go watch more of our clips. They can tap our profile and they can go watch more of our clips on our profile. Or they can go to the actual episode themselves. And so if you can tie if you can tie your clip up with a neat, tidy bow as a conclusion, you can get your audience to do things like that, where all of a sudden they're not just going to scroll to the next one, they dive deeper into you. Once we have all that put together, there's typically a phase where, and this is part of, like, our clip review process, where Easton or our editors will get a clip to this point where it's pretty strong throughout. This clip would be good for most people in terms of quality, but we want to be the best for everybody, and we want great clips, not good clips. So we then go back and we do what I always say, like, streamline it, trim the fat, go cut the ums, go cut the sidebars, go cut the over-explaining, anything that's redundant, let's cut that out. Any stammering or stuttering over words, let's cut that out. Our goal with every single clip we've ever cut at Legos Creative is to identify the message of the clip, then present it fully in as little time as possible. Meaning, if we have a 2-minute section where I'm talking about the podcast clipping stuff, like I've been using as the analogy this whole time, stay with me. If that's a 2-minute section that I'm discussing that, we are going to first draft probably cut it down to, like, 55 seconds. But then we're going to go, We can streamline this even better. We can pick up the speed and the momentum. The pacing can pick up. He says a bunch here. Get rid of those. He trips over this word. Let's get rid of that. He trips over it again because he's an idiot. Let's get rid of that. He tripped over it again. This kid really sucks. Wow, let's get him off the mic. Let's get rid of that too. Now we're in a position where we've condensed that 55-second clip down to 40. Now the clip is dense. Now we have momentum. And I think maybe density is a good way to think about momentum or pacing. The denser the clip, the more locked in you're going to have people. So the other way that I like to think about it is when you get a clip to that stage where you want to we're done, the transcript of that finished clip should read as an idealized version of the conversation. You should be able to look at it and go, this is the purest version of the delivery of this messaging. I'm still getting the point across. I'm not going to leave anybody wait, that feels incomplete. They're still getting exactly the message that we wanted. We've just cut out all the fat. We've streamlined this thing. It is an aerodynamic clip, and it is flying through the algorithm at a high rate of speed. Then, obviously, you're going to make sure you have clean framing. You're going to make sure you have tight edits. You're going to make sure you have clear captions. And I do want to touch on that before we move on, because clean framing is so crucial. And this goes back to what you addressed really early on here, EASTON, of if somebody sees your clip, if your face is this big in the frame, I'm out. At the same time, if I'm so far away, I'm probably out too. Figure out where people fit best. Usually shoulder width within a frame is nice. You don't need full body unless you're showing something full body. That's important, but frame up in a way that is visually appealing. Tight edits. Don't go over the top with your transitions and everything like that. And I'll say this loud and clear. The best shows in the world are not going over the top with their edits. They're not. And I can't say it enough. I don't know why people refuse to believe it. I think they just get caught up in all this brain rot editing trend that has been going on. The biggest shows on earth, getting the biggest views on earth, are not doing that style of clip. It's not worth the squeeze. It doesn't help. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't help. The reason why those clips do well, the reason why the clips do well at the highest level on the biggest shows on earth is because the content is strong and they present it without taking away from it through using this recipe. So keep your edits tight. Don't go overboard with all this extra stuff and all the different fonts, flashing colors. You're not going to trick your audience into staying locked in on a clip. And your captions, same deal. Don't go doing a bunch of extra shit. Keep it simple. Your content should speak for itself. The messaging should speak for itself. This recipe puts you in a position where you can lean on that.
Emojis don't belong in captions.
Emojis don't belong in captions, dude. Get out of here. Thank you. I want to do a challenge for anybody watching this. If you're watching this, and you are because you're hearing this right now and you're seeing me, I want you to take the last 3 clips that you put out, and I want you to rewatch them, rework them, and repost them. Let's walk through that. I want you to rewatch the last 3 clips with this new knowledge that you have. I want you to rework them. Take them literally back into your editor, whatever you use. Re-edit those clips with all of this framework in mind to put them into the mold that is this recipe. And then I want you to repost those clips onto your feed and see if they perform better than the original version of those clips. I would think they would. I really think that this is a massive unlock. I think that, again, it feels like it's a basic thing to look at when you're looking at clips that you just find funny moments or cool times or good quotes and you just cut that piece of it and you put it onto a feed. The game is too busy right now to play that way. And again, where you're not just competing against other podcast clips, if you're a podcaster, you're competing against clips in general from anything. So the NBA playoffs are on, you're competing against those clips. MLB season is heating up. You're competing against those clips. The Golden Globes were last night. They weren't. You're competing against those clips. Mr. Beast just dropped a new season of Beast Games. You're competing against those clips. It's you versus everybody who's sharing clips. This recipe puts you in the best position to succeed. Thanks for stopping by. Like, subscribe. Drop a comment. Network in the comments. I love seeing people down there. I love jumping in too. If you have questions that we didn't answer, let us know what they are. Otherwise, thanks for coming. Like, subscribe, comment, like, subscribe, comment, like, subscribe, comment. We'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.